Welcome to the G20 Interfaith Forum webinar on AI and translation. This is the second of a series for AI and faith. If you didn't have the opportunity, last week we had a specific kind of kickoff webinar on AI and faith where we had speakers from different religions, specifically Jewish, Buddhist, and Christian. If you didn't have an opportunity to see that webinar, we would invite you to go to our YouTube channel, IF20 YouTube channel, and be able to watch that as well. Today, we are so excited to have three speakers specifically talking about AI and translation. Oftentimes, we talk about the negatives about AI, but today we're talking about something that is good, AI for good, AI for wonderful. AI is transforming translation by making it faster, cheaper, and more accessible for more languages. These systems can bridge cultural and linguistic gaps, helping people learn, collaborate, and share ideas across borders. We're so excited to have a group of people who are dealing in computational linguistics right now, cutting edge, who are focusing on low resource languages. They'll explain more about what that means, but they're languages that are not usually translated, that don't have all the amazing content that we're also used to having. Our three speakers are first Steve Richardson. And yes, we do have the same last name, and we're also related. He is my husband, so I'm so glad that he's here on this webinar. He is a computational linguist. He is also a professor of computer science at Brigham Young University. But before that, he also worked at IBM Research and Microsoft Research. Then we have Charles Cranny, who is the Senior Manager of Digital Media at BYU and Brand Creative. He's also over the BYU Speeches Translation Initiative, which I'm really excited to hear more about. And finally, we have Ammon Schertz, who is a PhD student specifically researching AI and translation. He is also the lead research assistant for the Matrix Lab, and I'm going to let him explain what that acronym stands for. So we are so excited to have all three of you here today, and we will start with Steve explaining a little bit about himself, but also about the work that he does.
Thank you, Mariana. It's great to be here, and I'm excited for this webinar. As Mariana mentioned, I've done quite a few things regarding translation over my professional life, starting 50 years ago when I first started working on what we called then machine translation. Today we refer to AI translation, but machine translation, or MT for short, was something that people were working on back in the 50s. And then in the 60s, I became involved in the late 70s and then worked at IBM in this area, worked at Microsoft Research in this area. I actually participated in sort of a production environment at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 10 years using the technology, and now I'm teaching at Brigham Young University and leading the Matrix Lab, which Ammon will explain to you in a moment. The question of this seminar, of this webinar, really is, how do we use AI for good? And as Mariana just explained, we're talking about how AI is being used to do translation, and in fact, what people often don't know is that the same technology that is being used in the large language models, what we call large language models, or AIs like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, the technology used in those systems was first developed in the context of doing translation back about 12 years ago. And then in 2016, it became widely used in Google Translate, Microsoft Translator. By the way, I was involved in the creation of the latter. And then people started scaling it. And, as a result, we have these incredible AI chatbots, large language models that do all kinds of things, but translation continues to be one of the primary tasks. Um, the question again is, what are we going to do with this great technology? And my vision and the vision of our work that I'm involved in is a vision where we want to break down all the language barriers of the world. Now, imagine a world in which no matter what language you read or spoke or even signed, you could communicate with another person in the world, anywhere in the world, who read, spoke, or signed another language. And neither one of you knew the same language. So if I'm sitting in South Africa and I speak Zulu, I can speak in Zulu, and somebody in the United States can see a sign language representation of what I'm saying in ASL, American Sign Language, or perhaps somebody in China can hear what I'm saying in Mandarin Chinese. Wouldn't that be amazing? And so this is the kind of vision that we have, and not only among, as Mariana said, not only among the major languages of the world, of which there are maybe a few dozen, but also among the other 7,000 languages in the world. And I will offer right now that our current AI models, and I call them models, just think of the AI systems that you use, are able to deal well with maybe the first first dozen languages or so, or maybe 2 dozen. And then they deal okay with another few dozen languages. But once you get out past 50 or 60 or 70 languages, um, the quality drops off significantly. And whereas people have claimed that where these models can handle these languages, uh, they can in some rudimentary way, but not in any kind of practical production sort of way. And so, again, there are over 7,000 languages in the world. So we have about 6,900 languages to go to make it truly production level. But the other interesting thing is that half of those are not even written. So we need to deal with speech. And then there are scores and scores and scores of sign languages, hundreds of sign languages. Each country has its own sign language. And by the way, they're not related to the other spoken languages like you would think. For example, British Sign Language and American Sign Language, people who sign those two languages can't even understand each other. So we've got some really interesting problems to deal with to break down the language barriers of the world. And once we do, what can we do with that? Well, we can provide humanitarian services across the world. We can respond to national emergencies, to natural disasters, medical services for underserved communities, online job opportunities. All sorts of good things can come of that. Of course, a lot of bad things can come of that, but today we're talking about AI for good, so we're going to stay on the good part. Um, Finally, I just want to say that as we look at how we're going to use AI to do these good things, the process or the pipeline by which we employ AI involves first gathering the data. And when I say the data, I mean, for example, English and corresponding translations in a given language. For the high resource or common languages, there is a lot of data out on the internet. But for the low resource languages, there's very, very little to none for many of these languages. So somehow we have to acquire the data and then be able to use it to build the models, which Ammon is going to be talking about, and how we do that, and then finally take the models and put them together into some kind of application that allows us to produce content that is translated and made available to people around the world. And again, this is something that Charles will be talking about. How am I doing on time there? I think I want to show you just one quick demonstration of something that we've been working on that sort of puts this into context. I'm going to quickly share my screen and hopefully do it in a way that uh, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So this is our lab's website, and you can see it says it's a speech translation demo. So if we have already acquired data from speakers of, say, an African language like Osa, sorry if I don't say that quite correctly, it has a click in the front of it, and I want to I want to speak in English and I want it to translate. I want to translate into that language. I first have to recognize the English, which is something that is really common these days, transcribe it, and then translate the text into OSA, and then have the another AI model speak it. So we're involving three different models here, three different pieces of AI translation, oftentimes combined into one that that you would see in the large language models, but I'll just do a simple demonstration here. We want to help break down the barriers of language around the world using AI technology. So if I just spoke that sentence, you see that it translated it, and now it will synthesize that in
Sifuna ukunceda ukutshabalalisa izithintelo zolwimi kwihlabathi jikelele sisebenzisa iteknoloji ye-AI.
Now, I don't speak Xhosa, but I've been told that that's reasonable, and we're working on increasing the quality of that system. But this is the kind of thing we're talking about, and we're excited to be involved. I will say one more thing if I have a little bit of time left for me, which is that we have a project whereby it's called PathSay. It uses
Steve, if
it
you could
uses
unshare too.
Oh, thank you very much for telling me to unshare.
Thank you.
Yes, there we go. Okay, thanks. It uses uh, college age students around the world. There are Brigham Young University has a program called Pathway where there are 85,000 students around the world who are involved in many of them are involved in a work study program. What we do is we ask them to read sentences in their native languages, and then we record what they read uh, and in their native language, and we take that and data, and then we use it to create the models that enable us to do these things like what I just showed you. And so that project is ongoing currently. We have about 2,200 hours of audio in 30 languages, including a couple of Pacific Island languages, Southeast Asian languages. We're expanding around the world. There are other initiatives as well that have already produced 10,000 hours in 21 languages. That's called Waxel. But again, we have 30 languages and we're expanding to more. So there are various initiatives to do this. And again, we want to work with these people. I think I'll stop right there, but that gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Steve, thank you so much. I have to admit, obviously I have seen all of these before, but it is so impressive. You did mention about sign language, and I think some people might be really interested. How are sign languages being translated? Because I think sometimes some of us don't really understand the complexity of sign languages and how every language has a different sign language.
Right. So I'm going to leave it to Ammon to talk about maybe how the data from sign languages goes into making these AI systems. But I will simply say that first, again, we have to acquire a bunch of data where we have a sign language video in ASL and other sign languages, and then the corresponding English text, or if we're doing Libras, it would be the Brazilian Portuguese text. And we would take that and use it to create a model. And this is very cutting edge. Nobody can do this really well yet. And of course, you have to both recognize it and then translate it. And I'm going to again leave that to Ammon to maybe talk about how those things can go together with speech and text. So Yeah, it's an exciting area of brand new area that many people are starting to explore because we have the computational power to do so.
Thank you so much for starting off this wonderful conversation. Let's go to Charles Cranny. Charles, I know that you've been doing a lot with something called Tual, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll be able to explain what Tual is as well.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Steve, for your little presentation. This is an amazing time of life, isn't it? We've got 46 years ago, I started work here at BYU with a non-correcting Selectric typewriter. And look at where we've come since that time. It's just amazing. And it's so fun to be part of it. So thanks. I want to pick up right where Steve left off, because the voices he just described are part of how the story I'm going to tell even became possible. First, I want to tell you about a treasure, a barrier that happens when you put human judgment and artificial intelligence side by side and ask each one to do what it does best. First, the treasure. For decades, every week, thousands of people gathered at Brigham Young University to listen to a single talk. We call them devotionals and forums. And over the years, we've collected more than 2,500 of them. Now, I've heard a lot of talks in my life, but these are different. And I think I know why. Many of the people who give them may only ever do this once. It's a once in a lifetime invitation. So they pour themselves into it. They bring their best thinking, their best convictions, the thing that they most want to say before they sit down. If you heard of the last lecture, the idea of speaking as though it's the only chance you'll get, that's the spirit of these talks. And it isn't only our community. Our forums have welcomed remarkable voices from across the world's disciplines and traditions. The historian David McCullough, Senator Joseph Lieberman, Archbishop Charles Chaput, Rabbi Harold Kishner, and many, many more, people of different faiths or no particular faith, scientists, statesmen, artists, scholars. So we have this library, 2,500 of humanity's earnest attempts to say something true and something good. And for years, we sat on most of it locked in a way behind a single door. And that door was language. Now, all of it is in English, but here's something people are surprised to learn about BYU. BYU teaches more languages than any other university in the United States, about 85 of them. That's extraordinary, and we're really proud of that, but it's nowhere near enough. Because there are more than 7,000 languages spoken in the world today, 7,000, as Steve mentioned, and we set our 85 against that number, and you start kind of to feel the size of that gap. Many of the human family couldn't hear a word of what was in our library, not because that message wasn't for them, but because no one had ever said it in their tongue. And they were asking. For years, we received requests nearly every day from people all around the world, please translate these. We want to hear them too. When people knock on your door that persistently, you start to feel the weight of the thing that you're keeping from them. So about 3 years ago, we began working hand in hand with our College of Humanities. We started translating the talks into 4 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Japanese. Japanese because we wanted a language that was way different than English. We wanted to have that experience. And we ran straight into a wall. It's one thing to translate the words into a page, but it's another thing to entirely dub a video, to put a new voice on a person who is speaking in a new language so that it feels natural and human and worthy of the original. That work was slow. It was painstaking. It was expensive. We could fill the 7,000 languages out there, and here we are laboring over a handful of videos at a time. We needed help. So we decided to build something. We built a program. We call it To All, because that's the point, to all. What To All does in plain terms is this: it reaches out and finds the very best AI voices available around all of the different companies, voices that sound warm and natural, not robotic, and it places that voice right onto the video speaking the new language in step with the speaker. The thing that used to take us days, it helps us do far faster, and the quality keeps climbing month to month. It's also gotten clever. If we already have a translated script prepared, To All will recognize that script and dub the video to match it in a new voice on the fly. And if there's no translation at all, it can use AI to translate on the fly as well and still produce a dubbed video at the other end. And here's where Steve's works comes back in. Most tools can only reach the popular commercial languages, the ones that companies can make money on. But the world's 7,000 languages aren't like that. Many of them have almost no digital resources at all. They're what people call low resource languages, and they're usually the ones left out. So Steve and his team have been building this AI and human voices precisely for those languages, the overlooked ones. And To All can reach right into that work and draw it out directly so we're not limited to the handful of voices the rest of the world bothers to build. We can tap into a growing library made on purpose for the people most often left behind. The very languages everyone else skips are the ones we most want to serve. I want to be careful here because I'm talking to people who care about using these tools well. We didn't build To All to replace the careful work of translators. We built it to take the most mechanical, grinding part of the work off their shoulders so that the humans can spend their time where their judgment actually matters. And here's where it almost gets hard to believe. We've recently been moving To All into the cloud. And what that unlocks is a scale that we couldn't have imagined 3 years ago. Before long, we expect to be able to translate into hundreds, maybe even thousands of languages, not one after another, but many at the same time, all at once. Think back to that gap, 85 versus 7,000. For the first time, the gap doesn't feel permanent. It feels like something we could actually begin to close. That's where we're pointed. We wanted to take this treasure, these 2,500 earnest, once in a lifetime talks, and carry them to the whole human family in the language of their own hearts. Now, let me close with just a part I want you to take home because I think it matters for all of us. Whatever tradition we come from, who wants to use these tools for good. In all of this, every step, the human being is still needed. It has never stopped being true. The temptation with the powerful tools to ask, what can this thing replace? Everybody's worried about their jobs right now. We've tried to ask a better question. Where does the human have the advantage and where does the machine have the advantage? And how do I put them together? The machine is tireless, it's fast, it can hold 100 languages at once and never get bored on the 10,000th video. That's a gift and it's a real one, but the machine does not know what is sacred. It doesn't catch the line that would wound someone or honor a nuance that makes a phrase land in one culture and offend in another, or feel the weight of a speaker's deepest conviction. That is human work. Frankly, that is holy work. So we look for where each one is strong and we combine them, and we try to do it in a way that elevates the human rather than sidelining them. The AI carries a load, the person carries the meaning. That's the story, a treasure too long locked behind one door, a barrier 7,000 languages wide, and a tool built not to push people out of the work, but to lift them up so the work can reach everyone it was always meant for. So that's what we're trying to use, how we're trying to use AI for good. Thanks.
Charles, thank you so much for that amazing description, especially, as G20 Interfaith Forum, some of the difficulties that you're talking about in terms of just using translation without putting in the human, without putting in the spiritual, without putting in the soul. I think that was such a powerful statement, and also something that we are very worried about in terms of making sure that spirituality doesn't get taken away because of AI. So I do have a quick question for you. As you were talking about translators, as you deal with translators, I'm sure that they are worried about their jobs, but also how have they found To All to be a help? Obviously, it makes things easier, but is there a hindrance? Is there, a concern? You talked a little bit about it, but are translators positive about this new tool, or is there a little bit of pushback?
Well, I think they're ecstatic about it because it's taking that the bad part of translation, those endless hours of trying to put the correct voice on the video and all that, if you're either an interpreter or a translator, and that type of work can be taken out of their realm so that they can focus to say, oh, what was the author trying to say about this statement, and how is it important, instead of, oh, wow, I've got to do this video now and it's going to take me hours and hours. So I think they've been ecstatic about it. And some of them actually just scream and say, "Whoa!" So they're having a pretty positive effect on it because they know that they're still pretty valuable in the process, but the mechanical and the doldrum stuff is gone.
I love the fact that they can deal more with the nuances. And there is such a nuance of language, especially when we talk about spirituality and, and faith-based discussions and talks. So I'm so glad that they're able to spend the time on that part of translation as well. So,
May I interject with one
of
thing?
course,
Because you
of
said
course.
how wow it is for these translators. May I just say that maybe 30 years ago, translators hated automatic translation because it was not very good. And they hated using it. They were being forced to use it. There were earlier versions of this technology, right? People were writing rules manually. They were using statistical things. But when neural processing, this is the AI technology of today, came online about 10 years ago and then started to improve. Now we see that it's opened up a whole new era, and now we're getting the kind of response that Charles just talked about. So I want for anybody out there who's listening who thinks, well, translators, a lot of my translators say they don't like using AI translation. It's getting better. And, what we're seeing is what Charles has described.
I think it's also interesting that you talk about, this same technology that ChatGPT and Claude and all these things are using. It's really been around for over a decade. And so, but it has been used so much in translation. So I guess we can thank translation for all the LLMs that we have today. We're going to now turn the time over to Ammon. Now, Ammon, I'm hoping that you'll be able to let us know what matrix stands for. That's going to be helpful for people because it's kind of a cool acronym.
Yeah. So I'm a PhD student and the lead research assistant at the Matrix Lab. The Matrix Lab stands for Machine Translation Research and Interlingual Experimentation. The X in experimentation is the X in matrix there. But Dr. Richardson and I, so Dr. Richardson, Steve here is my advisor, and he started the lab about 3 or 4 years ago now. And I've been working there since it started. And we've been focusing all of our efforts on researching methods for improving AI translations for these resourced, underserved languages, as both Steve and Charles have talked about already. I'm very much on the technical side. I work on the specific methods that address specific problems for specific languages. Every language is so different. As we've talked about, sign languages are vastly different from spoken languages. Different spoken languages are very different from each other. You have Romance languages, you have Germanic languages, you have all of the different Asian languages, which have so much diversity. There are so many interesting problems that need to be addressed in order to improve translation technology for any of these languages if we want to be able to address all 7,000 in the world. I've been researching machine translation for 4 years, and I care very deeply about some of the languages that I culturally come from. I grew up in a multilingual household. I am Cambodian, so I speak Khmer. I have family members who are Laotian, Thai, and other parts of Southeast and East Asia. And so language has always been a huge part of my life. And I've been surrounded by so many different languages that I, as a child, definitely didn't really understand. And I don't understand all languages now for sure. But because of that, I just feel so much passion for trying to improve language technologies for many languages, especially the ones I culturally come from. A lot of tools that maybe us English speakers take for granted don't exist in many, many languages that are essential for translation, but essential for other things as well. For example, if you use Siri or Alexa at any point in your life, those technologies just don't exist for the vast majority of languages. They just can't use those kind of tools. You can't do hands-free talking or hands-free controls of the car unless you speak English or Spanish or German or some very well-resourced, very well-researched technology and language. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about how these AI translation technologies work. As we've discussed, they have so much potential for good. They can help enable humans to translate more efficiently, to focus on the nuance. It can help with humanitarian work. It can help doctors communicate with patients. It can help with language preservation. I think that is a huge part. There are many languages that are going extinct as we speak, and they don't have any digitization. There is no easy way to preserve those languages and preserve the culture that's so deeply embedded in the languages. And AI translation can really help with that. Um, so because of this, I spend a lot of my time and effort researching methods to improve the AI translation process. There are, as I alluded, there are many, many languages that all have different properties, and so all of the methods are different. Um, for example, for sign languages, you can't really use any traditional computational linguistics techniques on sign languages because it is a visual medium. Uh, other languages, you have the advantage of being able to take in the text, the written form of the language, and do processing on that. But with sign language, you need video, and with video, things get really complicated. AI translation technologies are built off of data. You need lots of data, whether it's in the form of many sentences or maybe many audio files or but with sign language, you need lots of video. So there's not really an abundance of signed video compared to the plethora of text on the internet that we can use, texts that are already in books. So with sign languages, you have to kind of treat it a little differently. It's kind of the intersection of a different computer science field called computer vision, in which you're trying to learn from visual cues, and then computational linguistics, which is more the linguistic approach. And so it is a very underdeveloped technology, and the current methods are involved with taking a video and trying to extract just like the skeleton of a person as they're moving, just from their fingertips all the way up to their face, and in order to not worry about the look of the person, but just look up, like see the motion in isolation. So those technologies are currently under development and very premature, but there's a lot of hope in the field, and there's a lot of work to be done for sign languages. With other languages, you can sometimes have a what I would consider a low resource language, as we've talked about, which is related to a higher resource language. For example, you may have some indigenous Mexican languages that share a lot of similarities to Spanish. Just over time, just words will be borrowed from each language, and there'll be kind of a mixture of the two languages. But we don't have much data in the low resource indigenous language. What we can do is take the higher resource Spanish and try to take some of the knowledge that we learn with these AI translation models and transfer it over into the indigenous language. And these techniques have proven to be really effective for helping improve the translation for those indigenous languages. Another thing we can do is we can have AI translation models that have many languages. You can throw 200 languages into one model, which is very difficult from a technological standpoint. But if you can do that, all of the knowledge between these languages can kind of be shared, which can help improve those smaller languages within the model. All the research we do at the Matrix Lab is focused on helping individual specific languages and trying to really help improve human communication for these languages that big tech corporations or other universities may not care as much about. And so we're really proud of the work we do here.
Thank you so much. I do have a question for you, though. As you talk about these new technologies, one of the things, I'm also a lawyer and have a background in a bunch of different things, academic research and others. And there's a real concern about hallucinations. Now, as you talk about translation, I mean, is there any concern about AI translation and hallucinations? Because I can see how that could be very problematic.
It is a huge problem still. But there is a very active area of research in the field of AI translation that is directly addressing this. We call it automatic quality estimation, in which you've created a translation out of an AI model, and now you want to know what are the chances that it's bad or what are the chances it's good. And we have separate models that are there to simply read in the input, the source, let's say English, look at the translation maybe in Spanish, and it tries to predict a score or a confidence. And you can use that as kind of a proxy for determining how trustworthy the translation is. There's also a lot of research being done for models to actually just say how confident they are. Then you would get what I would consider a more honest model. And if we can have more transparent and honest models, it kind of solves the problem a little bit. It doesn't fix the hallucination problem, but at least it lets us know when it happens. And that is, I think, just as important as, I guess it's the first start to solving the hallucination problem. And I'm really excited for all the research going on there. I'm a part of a few organizations that directly focus on this quality estimation and confidence side of the research.
No, that's wonderful. We are now going, since you've all kind of given us the foundation of our discussion, I'm really excited about this last half of our discussion. We're going to start this Q&A time. I have a whole bunch of questions I'm excited to ask you, but I'm also really putting it in there for our listeners. Please put in a question in the Q&A box, and we will definitely also have you be a part of this discussion. So I want to start with, so realize I will kind of point questions to one of the three of you, but please don't feel like it just can be answered by that one person. So we really want to open this up to more of a conversation. Charles, I wanted to start with you. I know that all three of you are involved with Tual, but I do want to ask you, what applications will Tual have in the future? I mean, right now you're talking about the BYU speeches, but what other applications will Tual have?
Meaning what other groups are interested in it, or?
Well, and also, what do you see as the future of Tual?
Yeah. Well, basically, the name of the product, Tual, we want to make sure that it's being used by those who are trying to do good things and not bad things in the world that are true. So we just had a transfer technology to a specific company that's using it for enterprise software, so that we're still working with them directly and getting that done so that people who want to use the technology outside of BYU could do that. Our own church is on a pilot program for it. We have others around that are interested in it that we're showing it to. So the hope is that anything that's virtuous or lovely or a good report or praiseworthy is something that can be translated into another place. So it's involving. We're always refining it. The translation tools that it used to be that we had to go from a computer assisted translation tool, they call it a CAT tool, to over to Tual and all that. We're trying to integrate all of that. The other thing is that, as Ammon was saying, it keeps learning. And so we have what we call these translation memories that we have high confidence in, especially when humans have been involved in it. And so we actually have millions of those that we're trying to incorporate right into Tual, so that it basically is mirroring more what humans think than just what AI is trying to do. But without both, it doesn't really work. So that's kind of the future as I see it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of course, is number one in terms of translation. I mean, they do so much with their general conferences and other things, but other religions too will be very interested in this technology, as they are also international and trying to get the word out to all the world. I do think it's really interesting as we talk about something that is so wonderful to all as a positive resource. I do see what restrictions, though, are you going to use to make sure that it's used correctly? I know you've kind of said, especially with faith communities, not just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but other faith communities. We want to make sure that Tual's not used to disparage religions, but only to help the religious idea of faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, faith in other religions and God. So just some thoughts. How are we going to restrict this amazing dynamic technology so that it's not used for negative?
Well, that was one of our big concerns. Steve and I were working on this together, how to avoid the negative. When I served over with my church in Russia for 3 years, there was a lot of really negative kind of faith degrading type of stuff that was around. And I thought, boy, I don't want this technology to get into their hands. And so we actually have an agreement that whoever this is going to be shared with, that Steve and I can agree that those are people we want to share it with. So it's not going to be just a carte blanche, here's everything for everybody, because its purpose isn't to make money. I mean, if we were going to make money, we'd just be doing it in these high resource languages, right? But it's to help really holy, honorable sort of things get out to people, and so that's, we've got that little barrier there in case somebody wants to just get it and use it for not good things.
Can I jump in too?
Yeah. Of course.
So I just want to make it really clear that, we're not going to make decisions about that based on somebody's faith tradition at all, for Tuwal. And, we feel that, again, generally speaking, the faith communities throughout the world are the boots on the ground and doing good throughout the world. And we look at, and interestingly, people in many other companies and in this whole area of research are being impelled personally to become involved in this low resource technology, not because of economics, but because they want to help others and they want to help underserved communities. I don't want to plug any company in particular. Meta claims that they're doing this to reach out to the world. I know they probably have financial reasons as well, but they are one company that is truly trying to reach out to these underserved communities. But the research that's going on, a lot of it is directed towards emergency response. For example, when there was an earthquake in Haiti back in, 2011, 2010, five of the major companies got together. And again, by the way, that was when we didn't have the current ability that we have to produce good quality translation, but they needed something so that first responders could go into Haiti and talk to the people and communicate with them. And they were at a loss for this. Within a week, these five companies got together, including people like Google and Microsoft and people that you might think want to control the world. There are people in those companies that want to do good, thank heavens. But they got together and created a system for translating between English and Haitian, which was useful enough to provide the services. I've been involved in another one. There's an effort called LT4 CPR. I think it's language technology for crisis preparation response or something. And it's a consortium of people who are interested, again, in providing services to various communities around the world, independent of their culture, independent of their language, independent of their faith tradition. So I think the applications for something like To All, again, are much broader. I mean, yes, we talk about it in a religious context, but it's much broader. And again, we're not going to try to impose our feeling about, faith on anybody, but we want to join with others in making sure that the whole world can benefit from this technology.
No, I love that. This next question kind of goes right along with that, but I'm kind of directing it to both Steve and Ammon. In all these AI models, it depends on data. And especially when we talk about low resource languages, and maybe you can talk about that name, low resource language. We've kind of skirted around it, but the low resource languages, there's one of the problem is there's just not enough data. We just don't have it. And so, how are you working on this acquisition of data for these different low resource languages?
Ammon, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to talk about this?
Uh, you can talk about the specifics, but I guess to define low resource language more specifically, it's simply a language in which we don't have enough resources to match the performance of what we would consider good quality translation models. That's how I would define it, though it is still a bit vague in the field itself as well. Um, and so it just means that there's not enough to get the technology that we hope to get out of these AI models. And I'll leave it for Dr. Richardson here to discuss some of the specifics we're doing for getting more data.
And before I do that, let me just say I was looking at the statistics, around the world about languages, and I actually asked AI. I'm going to give this. I'm going to be honest about this. How many languages in the world have more than 1 million speakers, native speakers? And it came up with between 400 and 500. And it drew that. I always look when I ever use AI, by the way, you've got to look at where that data came from, right? Because it's not just so it's not hallucinating, but it pulled it out of various sources, academic sources, and so I think it's probably pretty good. But 400 or 500 languages with over 1 million speakers, and then if you go out to how many languages have 100,000 speakers, then you're out at 1,000 languages. And so, and again, how much data do you need? We think in terms of doing, translation in text. I don't know, Ammon, we'd like to get several 100,000 examples of things, but even then, that's still low. And we use the techniques that Ammon has talked about, combining high and low resource languages to help that out. In speech, it's another ballgame. You need hundreds of hours of speech. For our project right now that we're doing with PathSay, the Pathway project with Pathway students, our goal is to get just 100 hours of speech, 50 from females, 50 from males, from at least 10 different speakers, again, so we get the variety. And one of the challenges there, again, is dialects. In Africa, it's amazing. We're at the beginning of this, right? So, for example, if you go out today and look at what kinds of voices are available, these AI voices for English, they'll have a whole variety of accents and things, and for Spanish from different countries. For these African countries, they'll have nothing. They have maybe one language, if that. I think I only saw 2 or 3 languages there for some of these providers like Microsoft and Google. I mean, we're trying to do that right now. And again, there are companies that are going out right now and paying people to record voices. They're trying to get it from different sources. There's a whole question about privacy of voices that's we don't have time to go into. People have to be either willing to volunteer their voices if they want to help their communities, or they need to be there needs to be remuneration. There's a bunch of questions about that, but I'll leave it there. I think we're probably running out of time here. I don't know.
So, Ammon, I do have a question for you. I mean, you're probably the newest, most cutting edge, with your research, and I understand PhD, doing all the research that you're doing. As we're talking about this, what do you see as kind of AI in business, in common practice? How do you see the future of AI? In translation, but also in these other areas too. I mean, do you see this as good? I mean, how can we make IA good? That's my question.
Yeah, I think right now there's an overabundance of usage in which maybe many businesses and universities and other institutions are maybe using it a little too much, in my opinion, especially with the hallucination problems, as we've mentioned many times here. Um, I think it's just another one of those tools like the internet in which it'll change and morph into something that many people will find so many good ways to use it that we just can't even comprehend right now. And it'll just be another thing that we have access to that can enable things like this webinar is enabled by the internet. Who knows what's going to be enabled by AI? And I try to think positively about the future and that there'll be enough good people in this world that will really push good uses of these tools, which are very powerful, but they're still so premature in their development. I think every year there are tens of thousands of publications and papers that are literally only dedicated to the area of research of AI. And then there's tens of thousands that are that are a subset of that are just for AI for translation. So there's so many people working on it, and I really don't know what it'll look like, but I'm guessing that it'll be in a place to do a lot of good.
No, that's wonderful. Um, I did want to just also kind of put out here, just as we look to the future. I mean, that's kind of where I want to end, looking to the future. What kinds of new technological advances do you see in this area? Or what do you, if you had your wish list, what would be some of the wishes that you have that AI will be able to do in the future? And I'll just let anybody jump in that wants to. Charles.
So AI in the future, I think like Ammon said, it's a little hard to predict. The one thing is we know it's moving really rapidly. Back in when I first started in the publishing world back in 1980, we had a $500,000 machine down the hallway that would print out type according to the specification of the graphic designer. We'd wax it and put it on the art board, and that's how we created a magazine. Then we take a picture of it, and anyway, it was just and then the color separations was hyper expensive and all that. We watched that move to the next level when we got to things like InDesign or Quark and that sort of stuff, and it keeps going up. And so I think that what I finally figured out as all this works is that the technology migrates to the creator. And so all of these tools are helping the creator. They're taking away the intermediate steps, the costly things. If you wanted to do a film, back in the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s, it was really you had to have a $4 million operation at minimum with these things, and now you've got your iPhones and everything else, and so all of a sudden they're the people who are the creators are the ones that can take these tools without regards to cost or minimal cost, so that they can create these things. So part of the thing I think to keep in mind is the technology migrates to the creator. So how is the creator going to benefit from this?
I love that comment, because I do think too often we kind of disparage AI as being something that stops creation. But your comment means that creators even just have more to create with, and that as humans, we can see that as a positive way to view AI. So thank you for that. Any other thoughts on the future?
I have a thought, a wish that I hope the people in this podcast or webinar will participate in. And that is, we've said over and over that AI simply learns from the data that's put into it. And there have been studies, and again, I've been involved in some of the IF20 meetings with you, Mariana, of course, and heard about some of the studies about religious biases that exist in the data, and from different systems. There's an effort to develop benchmarks to determine if there are biases, if the IA models that are out there are being accurate in terms of how they portray different religions. Interestingly, I think those are only done in English. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but whether if a model uh, if a model has a bias, if it does not have a bias in English, you might ask the question, well, does it have a bias in some other language, right? Which it could easily do or easily hallucinate. These other languages are just not supported. And so that comes to my wish list item, which is as faith communities, we need to think about, can we provide the data, can whatever translation might be being done by your faith community, uh, can you make it available to people? And again, there are legal questions, there are other questions that need to be addressed. We're doing that right now with the data that we have from our church, moving forward on an effort to publish the data that we have in translations in about 100 languages, uh, with the idea of influencing whoever uses that to characterize our beliefs in an accurate way. I would invite others who are there, whether you be Catholics or evangelicals or Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist, whoever, uh, to think about, can you participate in giving data to or making it available for research and other organizations? And maybe we need to have some kind of a consortium of, maybe we can do this through IF20, a data consortium where we can get uh, the data that would fairly represent our various faith communities, and then in a controlled way make it available to make sure that AI models of the future do not exhibit biases, no matter what language is being used. So that's my wish.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because we do have a webinar coming up on AI and benchmarks, which is exactly what you're talking about in terms of different religions coming together and doing some benchmarks with AI to make sure that the proper information comes out about different religions, and that it also kind of stops some of these biases problems that we're discussing. Ammon, I'm going to let you take it home for us. What is some of your wish lists as you look at AI and the future?
A big one for me is privacy. The current way AI technologies work is everything needs to be run on these big data centers, which is very costly. And they save all that information that you give it. And I think what would be ideal is if we can run all of our AI models on our phones, in which it doesn't go to anyone else. It's either stays there or just immediately is removed. And I think the technology is moving in that direction, but we're not there yet to get highly capable, on device, very private and secure AI models. And I'm excited for that to happen.
Thank you so much. As kind of in conclusion, I would love to give each one of you 30 seconds just to kind of give a final little statement about your thoughts about what we've been discussing. I'll start with Charles.
So we're just excited to take everything to all the world, all of those beautiful, wonderful things. It's moving so rapidly that you have to kind of stay on top of it. You have to create a community of people, programmers, translators, and everything else to kind of keep watching it and watching it grow, so that you can help nudge it a direction here or a direction there. But ultimately, we want all this lovely to go to the whole world in all of these different languages.
Wonderful. Ammon.
Yeah, I'm just excited for the future of AI translation research. I feel like it's so grounded in humanity, and that's what I really love about the field.
Thank you so much. And Steve, do you want to conclude?
Okay. I'll conclude where I began, actually, with the vision. And can you imagine a world in which doesn't matter what language we speak, read, or sign, we can communicate with anybody else who speaks, reads, or signs another language. We want to do that. It's not going to happen unless we work together. It's not going to happen unless we're respectful of each other, especially with regard to questions of faith. It's not going to happen if we don't acknowledge the needs and in the important cultural aspects in different countries and with different languages. All this needs to come together for that to happen in the right way. We're taking baby steps right now, but I look forward to a world in which we can make that happen and maybe check AI from doing the bad things and focusing on doing good with it in this way.
I just want to thank all three of you, Steve, Ammon, Charles. Thank you for the work that you're doing for AI and good and AI and translation. And Steve, thank you for that vision. I do think that it is a vision that all of us should have that would actually bring the world together. We talk so much about divisiveness and how people are becoming very isolated. But what I see this AI for good that we're talking about today in terms of translation is the opposite. It's actually bringing people together internationally, but also through faith, through understanding. And so thank you for that vision. Thank you for that hope. We also want to talk to our viewers about, please come back next week. We're going to be having another in the series. It will be AI and the planet. And we're going to be talking about ways that artificial intelligence is hurting the planet, but also ways that artificial intelligence can help us solve some of these climate problems. I think this will be a really important webinar, especially given what's been happening, especially those that are living in Europe and the extreme heat that they've been experiencing, and also some of the water issues that we have throughout the world. This will be a very important webinar for people to come and listen to. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to continuing in this wonderful webinar series. And thank you again, Steve, Ammon, and Charles.
Thank you.